Emmanuel Macron is on course to be re-elected as the President of France. Speaking in the last hour, Mr. Macron thanked his supporters, but said after recent divisions, he would oversee a new era in France in which no one would be left behind. Earlier, his rival Marine Le Pen conceded defeat, but vowed to continue her political career, hailing the improvement in her vote. Exit polls, which are usually incredibly accurate, suggest that Mr. Macron will win around 58% of the vote, with Ms. Le Pen taking around 42%. We'll look at what the result means for France and for the rest of the world. But first, our Europe editor, Katya Adler, reports on the day's events.
Emmanuel Macron, one of Europe's most powerful leaders, clearly reconfirmed tonight. The first French president to be re-elected in 2 decades. His supporters ecstatic and relieved.
We feel safer for the next 5 years.
Because Marine Le Pen is the worst that we can have. So we are really happy to have Macron again.
I feel relieved. I feel really relieved because it was a really dangerous moment for France and for Europe.
Macron critics label him aloof, elitist. That's not how he came across tonight.
My friends, we will need to be kind and respectful because our country harbours many doubts and divisions. So we will need to be strong, but nobody will be left by the wayside.
For his rival and her crowd, a crushing blow.
Well, right now we're obviously disappointed that she wasn't elected. We have 5 more years with Macron. What state will France end up in? I fear the worst.
The next 5 years will see lots of anti-Macron protests because France is suffering and being ripped apart.
But for many in France, Marine Le Pen remains unelectable, a far-right threat, with a nationalist French vision, in stark contrast to the internationalist Macron. But Marine Le Pen insists she's not giving up. Parliamentary elections are just around the corner here.
It's all left to play for at this stage. We must make sure we retain hope.
An unapologetic speech by Marine Le Pen here. She may have lost tonight, but with her best results ever. She's tried now for the 3rd time to become France's president. And millions upon millions of French men and women went out to vote for her. Watch out, Emmanuel Macron, she says. We will remain in opposition and a force to be reckoned with. It is a problem for France's president. It's a bittersweet victory. He inherits a fragmented, divided country.
Macron with you was a main campaign slogan for France's president. From tomorrow, he'll try to unite his country behind him, his plans for stronger French finances and leadership abroad. Tonight, celebrations spread far beyond Paris. Brussels is beaming as well. Katya Adler, BBC News, Paris.
Well, our Paris correspondent Lucy Williamson is at the Macron campaign headquarters. And Lucy, what does his re-election mean for France?
Well, look, he's the first person to win re-election here for 20 years. And when you look at what he's been up against during his mandate, the Yellow Vest protests, the COVID crisis, trying to deal with the war in Ukraine during a campaign, this is an achievement. But no one here has ever lost a presidential race yet to the far right. And so this election was Mr. Macron's to lose. And in some ways, the headline here tonight is that more than 40% of France seems to have voted for a far-right president, seems to have voted for the opposite of what Mr. Macron is offering. So where does he go from here? Well, firstly, he needs to keep his parliamentary majority in parliamentary elections here in June. And secondly, he needs to try and knit together this divided country. And you heard a bit of him there in Katya's package, just saying how this country is filled with fear and divisions, promising that no one is going to be left behind. There's certainly a lot of relief among his supporters here tonight, but nothing like the energy or excitement that there was 5 years ago. And the predominant feeling from many people here tonight was, let's wait and see.
Thank you, Lucy Williamson reporting there. Well, let's get a final thought from our Europe editor, Katya Adler. And Katya, congratulations pouring in for Mr. Macron from world leaders tonight. What significance does this result have on the international stage?
Well, yes, we've had all those messages coming in. We heard from Boris Johnson. He described France as one of the UK's closest and most important allies. But I think the biggest audible sigh of relief has been coming from EU leaders. A President Le Pen would have been seen as an existential threat to the European Union. She's a known Eurosceptic, whereas it's hard to be more EU enthusiastic than Emmanuel Macron. France is the second largest economy in the EU. It's got the biggest military power in the EU. It plays a huge leadership role, not just in Brussels, but also in NATO. And Rita, that is so important right now, of course, with the raging Russia-Ukraine crisis, whereas Marine Le Pen has traditionally close ties to Moscow. That had European allies and the United States worried. Tonight, they're very relieved.
Katya, thank you very much. Our Europe editor, Katya Adler there.